My name is Ethan Voss. I'm a meteorologist, or I used to be at least. That feels like a lie now. Weather used to be math and patterns and pressure gradients, cold fronts and jet streams, nothing more. But that was before I went to the Talos station, before the sky started whispering. I worked for a private contractor, Arkin Environmental, one of those semi-government outfits that did specialized research for NOAA, FEMA, or the military, depending on who paid the most. In 2022, Arkin reopened a decommissioned weather station in the northern Yukon. Talos Station had originally been a Cold War communications post before being retrofitted in the 1980s to track upper atmospheric anomalies. No one wanted the assignment. I did. Not because I was brave or a genius or particularly interested in upper-level wind shear, but because I wanted to be alone. My wife had left me 6 months earlier. My kid was old enough to hate me for reasons I half understood and didn't have the energy to fix. I wanted a year of silence. Talos Station is located at the northern tip of the Ogilvy Mountains. No roads, no nearby settlements. You arrive by helicopter, or not at all. Supply drops come once every 6 weeks, weather permitting. When I signed the contract, they told me I'd be one of 4 people on site. 3 scientists and a technician. 12 months, 1 mission. Observe and catalog storm systems emerging from the Arctic vortex. Simple, right? The others arrived a day after I did. We were a weird little crew. First was Dr. Kailash Singh, a physicist from India specializing in electromagnetic propagation. Smart as hell. The kind of person who made you feel stupider just by breathing the same air. Second was Viktor Resnik, our technician. Former Soviet military. Gruff, bald, and quiet. He fixed things no one else could and drank like the world was ending. Last was Harper Lane, a climatologist from British Columbia. She was young, mid-20s, but sharp. She had this habit of humming when she was deep in thought. Always the same 3 notes. It drove me crazy after a while. We spent the first 3 weeks getting the station operational. It was a prefab structure bolted onto the old base's foundations. 2 stories, built like a bunker. No windows. 1 satellite dish. Multiple radar arrays. Backup generators, and a buried diesel tank in case the solar died. Inside, 1 comms room, 3 lab stations, a galley, and 4 identical crew quarters. It wasn't cozy, but it worked. The isolation got to Victor first. He started sleeping in shifts. 2 hours on, 2 off. Said the nights were too loud, even though there wasn't anything to hear except the wind. One night, I caught him standing in the radio room, eyes closed, tuning the dial slowly back and forth. I asked what he was doing. Listening, he said. To what? His eyes didn't open. Static has shape. You just have to hear it right. That was week 4. Week 5, the storm came. We'd been tracking it for days. A low-pressure monster spiraling down from the Beaufort Sea, moving slower than anything we'd ever seen. It parked itself off the coast of Alaska, then began drifting east, not south like it should have. It had no eye, no radar signature. But it reflected everything, radio, thermal, LiDAR. It was a black wall of interference. We lost satellite contact the night it reached us. Winds topped 180 kph. Temperatures dropped to minus 50 degrees Celsius. The sky turned green, like an aurora had bled through the clouds and saturated the world. And the radios started talking. Not all at once. At first, it was just a click, then a tone, then a burst of numbers, read by a voice that didn't sound human. Flat, toneless, like it was being spoken through water. Kayla ran into the comms room, nearly knocked over her chair, and pulled up the waveform. "It's not random," she said. She looped the audio. It repeated every 13.7 seconds. "Could be a beacon," Harper offered. "Military? Submarine relay?" Victor shook his head. No vessel would be in this weather. We analyzed the waveform for 3 days. The storm never moved. It sat overhead, blocking the sun, erasing the stars. The temperature held steady at minus 43 degrees Celsius. There was no snowfall, no ice accumulation, just wind and pressure, and that constant low hum across all frequencies. Then something changed. Kayla was the first to notice. "It's modulating," she said, staring at the screen. "The signal's branching. It's forming harmonics." She was right. The original tone split. One frequency became 2, then 4. Then voices, low, melodic, overlapping in a way that made no physical sense. It was like hearing a choir underwater, humming in reverse. That night, Harper began sleepwalking. I found her in the storage hallway, barefoot, muttering. "Do you hear them?" she asked. "They're inside the pressure lines. They're mapping us." She didn't remember saying it. The storm held for 12 more days. Every attempt to contact Arkin failed. Satellites weren't down. They were gone. No pingbacks, no comms. Even the emergency distress beacon gave us nothing. Our GPS failed. The world outside the station became a featureless void. Then Victor disappeared. We thought he went outside, maybe cracked under the stress. But the outer door was still locked from the inside. No footsteps in the snow, just his empty bunk and the faint smell of ozone in the air. Kayla ran diagnostics. No power surge, no airlock breach. But the storm was pulsing now. Low-frequency pressure waves that shook the walls and made the lights flicker. We wore headphones to sleep. White noise loops. It didn't help. The voices got inside. Not through the airwaves, not through the ears. Through the body. It felt like being tuned, every cell vibrating at some perfect, awful frequency. Kayla started bleeding from her nose. Harper stopped speaking entirely, just stared at the storm through the security monitor, mouth open, humming that same 3-note phrase again and again. I tried to log an emergency journal entry. The system crashed. The backup generator failed 5 hours later. We were running on battery packs and panic. Then the signal changed again. It formed a pattern, a series of numbers, dots, and slashes, like Morse code, but wrong. The pitch was inhuman, low enough to rattle the windows, high enough to make your teeth itch. Kayla screamed. "I know this pattern," she said, pointing at the waveform. "This is Voyager. This is from the Golden Record." I thought she was delirious. Until she pulled up the old transmission logs. She was right. The structure of the signal matched a section of encoded coordinates sent from the Voyager spacecraft, meant to identify Earth's location in the galaxy. But this was reversed. Not Earth's location. Another location. One that moved, every day, closer. That's when I realized we weren't observing a storm. It was observing us. The moment we realized the signal matched Voyager data, something shifted in the station. It's hard to explain. A pressure behind your eyes, a subtle rearranging of the air. Like the building itself had become aware we were aware. Kayla didn't sleep that night. She locked herself in Lab B, surrounded by notebooks, spectral analyzers, old vinyl printouts of satellite spectrographs. I could hear her talking to herself through the walls, whispering mostly, sometimes laughing, once crying. Harper still hadn't spoken. She ate little, drank less. She moved like a ghost from room to room, her eyes always locked on the monitor showing the storm. It still hadn't moved, not an inch. 23 days of constant coverage. No precipitation, no pressure drop, just electromagnetic chaos. Every attempt at triangulating a central mass failed, like the center kept shifting or didn't exist at all. That morning, I caught my reflection in the stainless steel galley wall. I hadn't shaved in over 2 weeks. My eyes were sunk so deep into their sockets, I barely recognized myself. There were bruises under my chin I didn't remember getting. We were unraveling. I confronted Kayla, or tried to. "I need to understand what we're dealing with," she snapped. "This isn't meteorology. It's not physics either." "Then what is it?" I asked. She looked at me like I'd asked what color was behind the sky. "I don't know. But the signal, it's not meant for us. We're just intercepting the spill." "What kind of spill?" She didn't answer. That night, the dreams started. Not nightmares, not exactly. Dreams of standing in endless tundra, windless, silent, looking up into a black sky where the stars were wrong. Different constellations, red stars that moved in slow spirals, blue ones that flickered like candlelight. Each time I woke up, my body hurt more. Deep pain in the bones, like my skeleton had been pulled and put back wrong. Harper finally spoke again. Only 2 words. "They're close." She said it with such certainty that I felt the air go cold. "What do you mean, they?" I asked. She blinked slowly, as if confused I was even asking. "The ones in the signal." The pressure waves intensified on day 25. Our lab doors began swinging open and shut without explanation. Items fell off shelves. The static hum now spanned the full radio spectrum. Kayla finally emerged from Lab B. She was shaking, thin as a rail. Her pupils were dilated. She hadn't eaten in days. "I found something," she said, her voice flat. "In the signal." She led me to her laptop and hit play. The audio was garbled. Tones spliced with compressed static, filtered down into a series of rhythmic pulses. "Listen carefully," she said. There's speech buried beneath it. I didn't believe her, until she slowed the recording by 80%. And there it was, a voice. Faint, mechanical, repeating a phrase in perfect English. "We are aware of your watching. We see through your storm. Do not send light. We will come." I felt ice in my spine. "That has to be a prank," I said. Kayla looked at me like I was a child. "From who?" "There's no outside comms. No one even knows what frequency we're on. It's not a broadcast." I stared at the waveform. "Then what is it?" She leaned in and whispered, "It's a reply." The room spun. The next 48 hours were chaos. Lights flickered. The backup generator failed again. We switched entirely to chemical heating. The outside temperature dropped to minus 58 degrees Celsius. The sky pulsed. I mean that literally. Every 6 hours, the cloud mass above Talos glowed white for precisely 3.2 seconds. Instruments registered it as a burst of high-frequency radiation, unlike anything naturally occurring. Kayla called it light pressure encoding. "Like fiber optics," she said, scribbling equations I couldn't follow. The storm is transmitting something, but we can't decode it. We're not built for it. Built for it? She nodded, eyes distant. Human brains aren't, but maybe something inside us still remembers. I didn't understand. Until Harper began drawing. I found first one pinned to her door, a series of spirals, not circular, more like logarithmic swirls, each terminating in a tiny glyph. The next sheet showed a skeletal tree with stars hanging from its branches, roots twisting down into a black sea. Then came the diagram. It looked like a circuit board, but with planetary symbols, orbit lines, and notations in a language I didn't recognize. Kayla gasped when she saw it. She's mapping a gate. I had no idea what that meant. She's drawing how they get here, Kayla said. It's not a physical path. It's resonance, frequency. We triggered it. How? We amplified the signal. Every time we pinged it, every scan, it answered. It hurt us. That night, I woke up screaming. Not from a dream, from a sound. A voice inside my skull. Not words, more like an impression. Something was coming. I found Kayla staring at the waveform again. It's changed again, she said. They're almost here. Who is they? Her face broke into a manic smile. You'll see soon. We all will. That's the point. That's when the airlock cycled. I heard the clunk of the pressurized chamber. Someone had gone outside. I sprinted to the control panel. The exterior camera was dead. Of course. But the lock log confirmed it. Harper. She'd opened the door 90 seconds earlier. No. I grabbed my parka, slammed open the prep room, and hit the manual override. Wind howled in, blinding white. I stumbled out into it, screaming her name. I couldn't see 5 feet. The snow stung my eyes. My breath froze on my lips. I swept the beam of my headlamp across the storm. Then I saw her. Harper stood maybe 20 meters ahead. No coat, no boots, just her white shift, hair whipping in the wind, arms raised. And something above her. A shape in the storm. A sphere. No, an eye. Vaster than the station itself. Hollow and bright. It glowed with a pulse, matching the signal. Slow, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. Harper lifted off the ground. Not violently, gently. Her body rose, limbs limp, into the swirling storm. Then she vanished. Gone. No scream, no trace. Just me, kneeling in the snow, feeling the signal inside me. When I returned, Kayla was waiting. She's been taken, she said calmly. What the hell is happening to us? Kayla placed her hand on my shoulder. They're learning. Through us. Through resonance. We're the conduit, Ethan. We were never meant to understand them, but they need us to carry them. That night, I watched the cameras. The storm blinked. And then, it whispered my name. Kayla stopped using her full name around day 30. I'm not her anymore, she said. She signed reports with a symbol instead. 3 concentric circles with a vertical line through the center. I asked what it meant. She just smiled and said, it came from the waveform. I slept less and less. Each night the storm seemed closer, not physically but conceptually. I can't explain that. Imagine standing in a dark room and knowing something is beside you, even if you can't see or hear it. That's what the storm became, a presence, watching, waiting. One night, I asked Kayla if she believed in God. She laughed. No, but I believe in them, whatever they are. Aliens? She shook her head. Aliens imply space, distance. This is something else. Not from a planet, not from our universe. Then where? Her eyes widened. From inside, from behind. She wouldn't elaborate. I reviewed Harper's drawings again. They'd become more complex, etched with unnerving precision. The last sheet she left behind, before she walked into the storm, showed a human figure with roots growing from its feet into a swirling black mass. Above the figure, the words, "They speak through vibration. The host hears." The host. I didn't want to consider what that meant. I began hearing things when I blinked. Not sounds, exactly. More like imprints. Memories that weren't mine. Machines screaming underwater. Towers reaching into a colorless sky. Creatures built from angles that defied geometry. Each time I opened my eyes, I gasped for breath, like I'd just surfaced from drowning. The station lights dimmed every few hours, like the power grid was breathing. Kayla had stopped eating completely. She stared at a single screen day and night, not analyzing, just watching the waveform dance. "I'm waiting," she said. "For what?" "For them to finish rewriting me." The radio burst to life on day 33. No preamble, no static. Just a clear, direct message on every frequency. "One remains. Contact confirmed. Transit prepares." Kayla smiled when she heard it. "They're talking about you," she whispered. I snapped. I grabbed her by the shoulders and shook her. "What is transit? What's happening to us?" Her head lolled back, and her eyes rolled white for a moment. Then she whispered, "They're using us to seed awareness. We're carriers. When you leave this place, you'll bring the resonance with you." "I'm not leaving," I said. She blinked. "Yes, you are." That night, I barricaded the lab. I ripped out every cable I could find, shut down the radar, disabled the transmitters. The humming didn't stop. It was inside me now, not metaphorically. Inside. I could feel the vibrations behind my teeth, in my spine, thrumming along my bones. It matched my pulse. I tried to record a journal entry on my tablet. The mic captured my voice, but when I played it back, the voice was wrong. Distorted, stretched, and behind it, another voice whispering in perfect clarity. "You are the key. The last door is yours to open." I smashed the tablet. The next day, Kayla was gone. No alarm. No airlock record. She simply ceased to be. I tore the station apart looking for her. Nothing. Only her symbol, drawn on the galley wall in charcoal. 3 circles, vertical line. That night, the storm pulsed brighter than ever before. I watched it from the observation terminal. It blinked in a pattern. 3 long bursts, 3 short, 3 long. Morse code for SOS. But it wasn't a distress call. It was mocking me. The waveform returned to its original state. Pure tone, 13.7-second loop. But it was faster now, accelerating, building. That's when the hatch opened again. No sound. I ran. The prep room was empty. No one there. No tracks in the snow. But the lock had opened. Something had entered. I retreated to the comms room and locked the door. The monitors showed only static. No data feeds. No sound. Just that same tone vibrating in my skull. Then the walls began to breathe. I mean that literally. The metal flexed inward, then outward, like lungs. Like something vast was pressing its face to the outside of the station and exhaling. The temperature rose. For the first time since the storm began, the interior sensors read above freezing. Then came the voice, not over the radio this time. Inside my head, not imagined. Spoken. Exit the chrysalis. I backed away. No. The voice returned, softer now. You must carry. We cannot pass without your pattern. Exit, exit, exit. I screamed until my throat bled. I smashed every console, destroyed the radio array, pulled the hard drives from the walls, and hurled them across the room. Nothing helped. The tone was inside me. That night, the dreams became visions, no longer abstract. I saw the world, our world. But it was overlaid with something else, a second geometry, twisting filaments of light, black towers rising from the oceans, clouds forming into eyes that watched entire cities, people walking in a daze, repeating numbers in perfect synchronicity. They had seeded the world. Through me. I woke up with blood on my hands. Not mine. Just blood. Every door was unlocked. Every system reset. The storm outside had receded, just slightly, but enough that I could see the horizon. There were structures out there. Tall obsidian spires, half buried in the ice. They hadn't been there before. I didn't remember leaving the station. But my boots were wet. And the resonance was louder. It wasn't a storm anymore. It was a voice, endless and ancient, echoing through time and matter. I collapsed in the corridor, sobbing. There was no one left. Nothing to fix. Nothing to stop. Just me. And them. Waiting for me to finish becoming. The sun didn't rise on day 35. Not metaphorically, literally. The sky above the station went black just before 4 o'clock hours, and it never lightened again. Our solar trackers registered nothing. No radiation, no trace of the sun behind the cloud cover. The world had gone dark. At first, I thought it was just us, a localized anomaly. But when I finally rebooted the emergency uplink system, using an ancient backup battery that hadn't been touched in years, I got one message through. It wasn't a response, just a broad-range emergency ping, looping on the NOAA International Band. Do not engage. Stay indoors. Do not look at the sky. Containment is no longer possible. There was no return frequency, no contact instructions, just that cold warning. And I finally understood. It wasn't our signal anymore. It had spread. The waveform wasn't data. It was contagion. An informational pathogen, one that changed those who heard it, not through belief or obedience, but through resonance. Kayla had called us hosts. That wasn't metaphor. We weren't receiving the message. We were the message. We carried it in the shape of our thoughts, our blood, our perception of reality itself. Our nervous systems had become antennas, our dreams the encoding medium, our bodies the substrate. I couldn't leave. But it didn't matter anymore. There was nowhere to go. The world had already heard it. Every time I shut my eyes now, I see the spires. Tens of thousands of them, rising like tumors from the oceans, from deserts, from mountaintops. They were never built. They were remembered. The signal didn't construct them. It recalled them from somewhere older than our planet. Maybe older than our universe. I sleep in shifts, an hour at most, afraid I'll wake up standing outside again. One night I did. Barefoot, no memory of leaving. I was standing on the ridge east of the station, looking down at the glowing storm. Except it wasn't a storm anymore. It was a gate. It It shimmered like liquid metal, held in midair, dozens of meters wide. The air around it was crystalline, distorted, like heat over asphalt. The light wasn't light. It was understanding, inverted into something visible. Something moved inside it. Not a ship, not a creature. Just presence. I say this with every fiber of sanity I have left. It saw me. It didn't need eyes. It simply registered me, like a scanner reading a barcode. And for a moment, I felt completely empty, like my entire consciousness had been read, copied, and filed away in some alien archive. Then it said my name. Not aloud, not even mentally. It simply became true in the space around me. Ethan Ross. And then came the next truth. You are the last. We must pass through you. I ran, back to the station, slamming the doors, sealing every lock, shaking, crying, whispering prayers I didn't believe in. But there's no shielding against this. Not against meaning. Not when it's built from the shape of reality itself. The lights inside the station started syncing to the signal again, strobing, low to high like a breath. I sat in the comms room and stared at the last operational monitor. The screen didn't show data anymore. It showed me. From above, from angles the station's cameras didn't cover. Impossible views. I watched myself breathing, writing, shivering. Like someone, or something, was monitoring my experience frame by frame. That's when the final change began. It started with my hearing. I began to perceive the signal in colors. Not metaphorically. I saw sound. Each frequency now arrived with a palette in it. Low tones in bruised purple, high tones in vibrating cyan. Then the smells came. Metal, dust, salt. All while the signal played on a loop. You are key. Open, open, open. My bones ached constantly now. My chest felt too small, like something inside was growing outward. My teeth had shifted. I found a molar in my pillow. Not broken, shed like a snake losing skin. I knew what it meant. I wasn't just receiving the signal. I was becoming its vessel. Kayla had said it before. Transit prepares. They weren't trying to conquer us. They were simply trying to arrive. But our dimension, our physics, our biology, it wasn't compatible. They couldn't just walk through. They needed an interface, a translator, a bridge. And I was it. I began writing things I didn't understand. Whole pages of symbols in perfect symmetry, spirals that didn't repeat, shapes that formed resonance patterns when viewed under UV light. I didn't learn them. I just remembered them. I think that's the final horror. Not that they're coming, but that they've already been. We're not discovering something new. We're reawakening something old. Something buried deep in the lattice of our DNA. A protocol for hosting them. And the signal is the ignition. I stopped trying to stop it. There's no point. I can feel them in the marrow of my spine now. Not speaking. Just resonating. A presence that vibrates through reality like a song heard underwater. The gate grows brighter. Every hour, its hum matches more closely with my heartbeat. Soon we'll be aligned. And then, transit. They called it transit. Not invasion, not emergence. Transit. Like they were just passing through. But you don't open a doorway through a human being unless you don't care what's left on the other side. My name is Ethan Ross. I used to study weather patterns. Now I'm the fulcrum of something older than time. And I can feel the gate widening. Day 36 passed without sleep. Or maybe I slept with my eyes open, standing still, breathing in rhythm with the hum of the station walls. The gate outside flickered in a new pattern, fractals of light that rewrote the air into geometry. I tried not to look directly at it, but I always did. It was beautiful. In the same way a collapsing star is beautiful. You can't help but stare, even knowing it'll burn you to ash. That night, I felt them moving through me. Not crawling, not tearing. Repurposing. The cells in my skin vibrated in sync with the station's metal floor. The snow outside began to rise upward, not drift, but rise, floating like dust in zero gravity. The laws of physics had grown thin here. Time bent around the doorway. I saw birds frozen mid-flight, drops of condensation suspended in air. A spider hanging motionless from an invisible thread. And then, a voice that wasn't a voice. Carrier complete, transmission stable, open. I fell to my knees. Not from pain, there wasn't any anymore. Just wait. The crushing enormity of their meaning pouring through me like floodwater through a sieve. The lights in the station pulsed to life, one by one. The air pressure dropped, and a sound like screaming metal filled the sky, but only for a moment. Then silence. Perfect, unnatural silence. I walked to the outer hatch. It opened before I touched it. Outside, the snow had turned black. Not burnt, just replaced. It didn't melt underfoot. It didn't stick to fabric. It wasn't snow anymore. I stepped out. The cold was gone. The wind was gone. The storm was gone. And above me, where there'd once been clouds, there was only structure. A lattice work of interlocking spires, stretching far beyond the atmosphere, like a cathedral built from impossible mathematics. I wept, not from fear, from understanding. They weren't malevolent. They weren't benevolent. They were function. They moved across dimensions like we walk hallways, using resonance as coordinates, thought as propulsion. And we, were simply stopover points. Hosts. Not chosen for our strength or intelligence, but for our pattern. Our minds form the right shapes. Our dreams align the gates. Our biology carries the echo. They needed nothing else. I walked until the station was a speck behind me. The spires extended across the horizon now, millions of them. From each, a tether of light descended into the earth. Where those beams touched, the ground had warped. Cities melted into plains of glass. Forests arranged into perfect spirals. Oceans divided into hexagons. And above it all, the sky churned with colors I'd never seen. No sun, no stars, only them. Kayla stood at the edge of a ridge, facing one of the larger spires. Her back was to me, hair drifting upward like she was underwater. I called her name. She didn't respond. When I reached her, I saw she wasn't breathing. But she wasn't dead. Her body hummed with that same pulsing rhythm. Her eyes, wide open, reflected an architecture I couldn't comprehend. And in her voice, though her mouth never moved, I heard it again. Pattern complete. Transit successful, carrier stable, expansion begins. I screamed, not in terror, in loss. The last thread of who I was, the part that still remembered coffee, laughter, the way the floor creaked back at the NOAA station, snapped. And I understood. This was permanent. There would be no return to normal. Not for me, not for anyone. We weren't conquered. We were converted. The waveform had been sent across every frequency, every channel, every dream. It was self-replicating, like a virus of perception. And now the entire world would begin to shift, to align, to become. The last time I slept, if you can call it that, I dreamed of Earth 1,000 years from now. Not ruined, not broken, rewritten. The continents reshaped into sigils. The skies lit by lattice suns. The oceans carved into memory banks. And people? They weren't gone. They were joined. Minds threaded into a single vast comprehension, echoing across every plane. Still human, but extended. And me? I was the first. The breach point. The chrysalis. The key. Now I stand at the center of the array. The signal pulses through my chest like a heartbeat. I no longer need to eat, or sleep, or speak. I exist to resonate. I am the beacon. And somewhere, across 1,000 dimensions, they move again. Toward the next world. The next translation. Because this isn't the end. It's only a stop on their journey. Just another station. Another storm. Another door. And if you hear the signal, if you dream, don't listen. Don't look. Don't understand. Because once you do, there's no going back. They speak in the storm. And they are always listening.